make sure. It's really important just to make sure that you minimize freight, right? Or it's really important just to make sure you're minimizing the operational cost. Or it's really important that you really just minimize your inventory investment. That's not what I was saying yesterday, was I? What I was saying is you have to look at the total cost of those three. If I save $1 in freight and only pay 50 cents doing it, I made 50 cents. That's the idea. It has to be the total of these three, the lowest total cost, because a lot of us, we've got into a tradition of what? We already talked about it. Look at this, Grant. I get freight every time. My freight's really low. Industry average is around 1.5% to 2% right now for most of you that you would actually pay in freight. I said yesterday 5% is if you had to pay it. We don't pay all of our freight. If you look at your GL, most of you are somewhere between 1% and 2% of your sales goes towards freight. All right, and where I'm going with that is, Grant, I'm really good. I only pay 0.5% in freight. But then we look at the inventory, and we've had to beef up the PO so many times to get that freight that we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in carrying costs. For the $1 million or the $100,000 we saved in freight, we spent $500,000 in extra inventory. That's not winning the game. It's the total cost. Anything here you want to talk about? Sorry about that, guy. We're having technical issues again here today. Okay, so now, this is great whiteboard talk. It's great executive talk. It's great strategy talk. But now what do we have to do? Take this back to your replenishment world, back to the inventory and how do we do this? So we have to build an inventory model that helps us drive customer experience and helps us drive profitability. Many companies think what? If I get this, I don't get this. If I want this, I don't get this. Not true at all. Like I said, that company I started with, 2 turns to 8 turns, 88% fill rate to 98% fill rates. Single digit, 2% bottom line, double digit bottom line. You can have great customer experience and you can have great profitability. So, as I'm finishing erasing this, help me out because, you know, my mind forgets some of this stuff and I need a little help in the morning, all right? What helps me with fill rate? How do I get a product in time onto my shelf? I'm getting down low. How do I know when I need to place a PO or transfer so I don't run out while it's coming in? What are we talking about here? Yeah, there's what I'm looking for. We have, I'll put it min up there since it was said min. I'm going to call it order point or reorder point. There's a place that it says when you get down to this, if you don't place a buy, you're going to run out by the time your shipment comes in. That's its order point, and all we're looking at is the usage during the lead time. Then usage and lead time always aren't predictable. They're fluctuant. We add some safety stock in to offset that. This is when we need to replenish. This is the fill rate. If it takes 7 days to get something in and you wait till you're down to 4 days supply, what's going to happen? Even if everything goes perfect, you're going to have a 3-day stock out. It's very simple. You have to say, what is the lead time? If it's a 30-day lead time, when I'm down to 30 days inventory plus some safety stock for fluctuations, let's call it 37 days worth of inventory, I need to buy. So that's all order point is. How much do I use during the lead time plus some safety? This is when I need to buy. You get another piece of this ready back there, you guys, because this one's not working. All right, let me try again here. We'll try that one more time here. All right, so this is when we need to buy. Now, I want to point this out while I'm here. A lot of you are still in what world? Not the below order point world, but the, I've got a review cycle of 2 weeks, so I looked at it on Monday, I looked at everything on Monday, and what's our thinking? 2 weeks from now, not next Monday, the following Monday, I'll go look at this again. That's the review cycle method. Now, what happens again if you bought everything on Monday and someone on Tuesday spikes you for all your inventory on your number 1A item? Or they're out doing a cycle count of some type and you don't have the inventory. On Tuesday, you're below order point, but if we're in that review cycle, you're not figuring that out for 2 weeks. Anyone that's in there still doing that looks at it 2 weeks later and going, "Gal, I wish someone would have told me about that the next day after it happened." Someone is telling you. Who? Your system. You're just not looking. It was the very next day going, "I know you just bought this yesterday, but something changed yesterday. You better look at it again." It's there in front of you. So I'm pushing that. If you want good service, you have to flip over to, I don't review things on a review cycle. I look at all worthy items that have gone below order point each day, normally A's and B's, and that's what drives my world. Then you're going to say, "Yeah, but I just bought yesterday." Okay, I get that. But if you don't want to run out, you have to replenish. And the idea now is, how do we replenish at the least cost? It's going to cost you money. You're going to pay for that service. But now, later we'll talk about, should I do a full line buy, beef it up and get freight, or should I do an emergency buy and pay freight? And the answer is, I'm going to get the service either way. Now it's whatever's cheapest. Cost me the least amount to pull it off. That's where we want to be. So now, we get down to the order point. We know when we need to replenish. How much do we need to replenish? Remember yesterday I said if I order one, I'll still be okay. It'll go back, if I'm selling one a day, order only one. Tomorrow it'll tell me to order another one. Next day I sell one, I order one. I'd order one every day, but even ordering only one, I'd still have a great fill rate. I'd have a high transactional cost, but I'd have still a perfect or great fill rate. If I order 30 of them, a 30-day supply, it'll be 30 days before I buy again, but then if I place a PO, I'll still have that great experience. What am I pushing here? I'm getting max, but I'm also getting rid of that concept of, oh, when I bought 100, I ran out, so I'm going to get 200. Oh, I still ran out. I'm going to get 400. How many you buy is not service overall. It's when you buy. How many you buy is your turns profitability world. So now, and someone just mentioned it, put all that back together, how much do I need to buy? There's an overall concept I shared with you yesterday, which is the first part of how much I need to buy. I'm sitting here today, and it's all based on what? When I plan on coming back to the source. If I plan on coming back tomorrow, I only got to get a day's supply. If I plan on coming back in a week, I have to get a week's supply. If I don't plan on coming back through for a month or coming back to them for a month, I have to buy a month's supply above order point. Now, we're taking into account what you already have. And again, what we're talking about here, just to make sure we get it up there, we call it your line point. This is your order cycle, your review cycle, or your warehouse cycle, your transfer cycle. All right? It says, hey, if it's 30 days, I'm not necessarily buying 30-day supply. If I'm here, I got to get back up to order point plus 30 days. I want a 30-day supply above my order point so it doesn't hit order point again for 30 days because I don't plan on going back to the vendor for 30 days. There was 2 ways we determined order cycle yesterday. What were they? The first one is there's some incentive involved, some target. Hey, place a 10,000-pound piece, cube, whatever, dollar PO with me, and we'll pay freight. Place a PO that's less than that, you pay freight. So what do? We try to get freight naturally, and we look at it and we go, oh, 10,000 pounds, and I'm doing 20,000 pounds a month with this vendor. How often could I place a PO? Every 2 weeks, right? That's how we're determining that. How long does it take me to generate a PO to get the target? What if it turns out that that equation comes out and says, hey, it's going to take you 3 years to hit the freight target? Most of us right off the bat, what? We're not going to go for freight because the carrying cost of buying 3-year supply would far exceed how much we just saved on freight. Everyone good? What I mentioned yesterday is most of you could buy up to 60 to 90 days at a time. 60 to 90 days, hit that freight and still do better. And you saw that even with the EOQ and with the transactional cost, where on the one we were looking at yesterday, buying every other month was more profitable than buying monthly, and definitely more profitable than buying every single week. So the first way we said, how long does it take for me to make a particular target? That'll be how often I can come back to the store. Or if the target is so big it's not worth going for, like we just explained, the target's so small that you can make it every 23 seconds, or they don't offer a target. Now how do I determine how often I should go back to the supplier? And this one's coming back to what Eric brought up yesterday. I want you to get the best turns you can within your company's infrastructure capabilities. How quickly can purchasing, receiving, put away, and AP do it? And there's a dial right there. Just so you know, the order cycle is the speed control of your system. It is exactly that. If I take the speed control, the review cycle, and move it from 7 days to 30 days, what did I just do? Instead of cutting 4 POs per month, I'm cutting now 1 PO per month. If I take a 30-day review cycle and zero it down to 7 days, what did I just do? Went from 1 PO per month to 4 planned POs per month. Review cycle, order cycle is the speed control of how many POs you plan on placing. And now to bring that home, if I set it at 21 days and my purchasing, receiving, put away, and AP are all keeping up, what should I do? Let's turn it down a little more and let's move it down to 14 days. Hey, at 14 days they're still doing good. We're keeping up. What should I do? Let's turn it down to 7 days. Now I'm using 7-day increments, so you don't have to. At some point you'll even start fine-tuning it. I got down to 7 days and all of a sudden AP can't keep up and we're starting to miss discounts. Now what? Just like anything, and all of you at some point did it, when you got your first car, your second car, you got to borrow the hot rod car, whatever it is, everyone has to push it. Well, not everyone, but most of us. There's a point where what? It starts to shake and shimmer a little bit, and what do you have to do? Back off slightly to stabilize it. You guys there? That's all we just did. We said, oh, it's 7 days. It's starting to shake. AP can't keep up. I turned it back up to 10 days. Hey, they still can't quite keep up. I turn it back to 11 days. Now they're keeping up. I still want to buy more often than 11 days, so now what am I going to do? What was the bottleneck that made me turn it back up? AP can't keep up. Oh, well, you know, we're not doing any advanced ship notifications from our vendors. We're still hand entering all of our AP stuff, and it's a reconcile mess. Maybe we'll start getting 856 from our our vendors, letting it become our invoice, and now we can keep up better. All of a sudden, I can start turning the dial back down. Then all of a sudden, I get back to around 7 or 8 days, and now, oh, receiving can't keep up. What can I do out there? Can I do barcoding receiving? Can I do blanket receiving? There's different things, taking advantage of technology, better processes, better education. Remove the bottleneck. Oh, I hit purchasing. They're only getting 2 POs placed a day. They're spending 3.5 hours dropping everything to Excel, looking at every item, massaging through it. Let's go off and take the stuff that we learned in this 3 days and start doing some 23-second good POs. Now, and again, everyone seeing this? This is where you're now driving the system. The system is not driving you. So this is our line point. How much? And it's starting to affect our profits, because this world took in 2 things, the order cycle. What's it really trying to minimize? Freight, cost to carry, and some replenishment costs. How fast can our folks keep up? So that order cycle says, where can I go in there and get the optimum amount, the optimum days that's going to help me minimize my freight, my cost to carry, and my cost to purchase. So it's affecting our profits. Now, before I talk about the next one, I want to make sure and bring this home. All of us get this. It went below order point, and I need to replenish or I'm going to run out. I don't plan on coming back for 30 days. So what other items should be on this PO? I get it. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. All of those. What about this one? And how come? It's below the line point, but I want to go farther into the why. Not going to run out, but you'll hit order point. You may run out, but this is the ways the system's looking and saying, if I'm going today, and I'm not going to come back for 30 days, I not only have to get the things that are below order point, I have to look out and say, what else would go below order point over the next 30 days? Because if I don't, what happens with this one tomorrow? Oh, it goes below order point, I need to replenish for service, but I just cut my PO yesterday. So we're including this, and this is just your system's way of looking out and saying, what else is going to go below order point over the next 30 days? So that line point serves two functions. It says buy at least this much or transfer this much to take me to the next time I'm going to replenish, and also make sure I'm including items that would go below order point before the next time I replenish. Then the last part of this, we talked about EOQ, economic order quantity. Now EOQ gets in there and says it looks at the cost to carry and the cost of purchase, and it says, hey, if it's a really, really inexpensive item, it's what? Cheaper to put extra on the shelf and pay the cost to carry than it is to keep paying the cost to purchase per line each time. That's all that is. And if it's a really expensive item, what's it say? It's cheaper to have you guys do the PO and transfer process than it is to put that inventory on the shelf. So it's just saying between cost to carry and cost to purchase, where's our best cost factor? And again, expensive items, buy little of it and buy it often. Inexpensive items, buy a lot of it and don't buy it as often. And that was Rogers that came up between review cycle, order cycle, and now EOQ. This is the breadth and depth of your POs. Order cycle is going to determine what? How many POs you place a year. Theoretically, if you have a 30-day order cycle and everything's going well, how many POs am I going to place a year for this supplier? 12 of them. Order cycle determines how many POs. EOQ said, even though I'm placing a PO every month, there's a bunch of these items that it makes sense to buy 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months worth. So that's going to determine how many items are going to show up on the PO. Even though there's 200 items with this vendor, I'm not going to buy all 200 of them every month because some of them I bought 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months. So the review cycle, order cycle is how many POs? The EOQ is going to start saying, I don't have to buy all the items and I'll get smaller POs. Right, Roger? Perfect. So again, and now let's just bring this together and make sure. How does it actually come up with the order quantity on your PO? We want to get up to line point and assure EOQ. So it says up to line point. That's step one of how much we should buy. Then it says compare it to EOQ. And we're going to take the larger of the two. If it takes 30 to get up to line point, but EOQ is 40, we're going to go get 40 because we're going to satisfy both worlds. That's what we're trying to do. We want to satisfy both worlds. We have to get at least up to line point, and we want to buy at least EOQ. If it only takes 10 to get up to line point, I'm sitting here, but EOQ is still 40, how am I going to get? Still the 40. So it's just the larger of the two. Then for some of you, facts, minimum order quantity. Hey, we have to, even though I only need 40 of these, they won't even fire up the line for less than 500. Minimum order quantity. SX, we do it through the EOQ. We just hijack the EOQ parameter and use that for it, and you'll see that later. And then what's the last part? It's getting ready to put the quantity on your PO or your transfer. It has to round off to package quantities or transfer packs. If this comes in a package of 50 and it's trying to get 40, it's going to round it up to 50. For buying gloves and you need 110 of them, it's going to round it up to a gross or a 12-pack of 12 or 144. That's what's going to end up on your PO or transfer. So the order point told us when we need to replenish. The line point told us what items we needed to include. Became the first part of how much. Compared it to EOQ to come up with the second part of how much. MOQs and rounding. And voila, we have our PO or transfer in front of us. Everyone good? If you got questions, go ahead and in these particular areas. Okay. What I want to really drive home from this is here's that customer experience world. If you're having fill rate issues, someone asked yesterday, I keep running out between buys. What's that mean needs to happen? This has to tell you sooner if you keep running out. If you keep running out 2 days before it comes in, what do you need to do? Order it 2 days sooner. It's not magical, right? If I'm always 2 days, it's, I'll get in trouble for saying this, but my wife and I go through this all the time. Always 10 minutes late. What's the solution? I go, it's so simple. It's so simple. And everything's being said, what's to fix the 10 minutes, but it's still 10 minutes late. And the whole thing in the end, no matter how you slice it, it's a very simple answer, no matter how you get there. If you're always 10 minutes late, you've got to leave 10 minutes earlier. That's all this is, everyone. That's all this is. All of this is back to just how we play life. Okay? Again, I'll pay you guys because I know I'll get it for that one, but we'll be okay. Some of you are going, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Grant. I know it's easier said than done. But after 48 years, yeah, you know, there's got to be some magic there. I mean, and again, it is. We're late for school every day, and it's getting up at 10 after 7. I go, just set the alarm for 7. That's all it's going to take. All you got to do is that one change, i.e., what did we do? I know it's funny, but it is the same. You just got to change the time clock from 7:10 to 7. You got to change the order point from ordering at 7 days to 9 days if it's always 2 days late. I know it's funny and it sounds simple, but it's really that simple. Now, how do I change it? Well, is the usage right? I don't want you manipulating. I want it right. If the usage is right and the lead time's right, what's that mean? This item is just probably, but I still keep running out between buys. This item is just more fluctuant than I thought, usage or lead time, and I need to up the safety by 2 days. The safety is the mechanism in there that keep the usage right and lead time right, but is the mechanism to say, do I need to add more or less to this? And my wife's point, so when I'm always 10 minutes early, I can reduce it by 10 minutes, and that's exactly the same thing with that safety stock. All right, same thing. If I'm never utilizing it, you can take it out of there. Okay, but here's what I want to bring. Customer experience. This is your customer service world. You're still thinking about that back there, that smile. This is your customer service world. This is your profits world. What night and how much? How much I buy at a time. Helps minimize freight, cost to carry, cost of purchase. All right, then we put one more thing in here. If we go through and get a good, how do I get a good order point? We got a question? Go ahead. Who's our question here?
If your usage is done on a monthly basis, does that mean it's only recalculating once every 30 days for your new order point?
SX, yes. SX, now again, let's just go through this now. SX is a monthly bucketed system. Anyone that works on SX knows how it works. When we're in June, okay, well, when we're, said obviously I don't, okay. I always like the second day. Everyone loosens up a little bit. We all got to know each other. Once you share drinks with people, that's where that magic is. The whole second day is different. I don't know if it's the sharing the drinks from last night or you're just hungover and that's the way you're trying to cover it up, but somehow it works. SX is a monthly bucket. So here's what, when I'm in June, even if I'm on June 1st, June 15th, June 28th, I didn't say 30 or 31 because I never remember how many days, but it's going to will not use June until it's completed. So all through June on SX, let's say it was a backwards 3 item, you're using March, April, May, no matter what's going on in June. Then, anyone that's on SX or old fax knows this. Then you come up to July 1st, you forecast, and we call it the ratchet system. Because things change dramatically. From a month ago, all of a sudden, a bunch of stuff you didn't need yesterday, it's saying you now need. Your POs grow. Anyone on SX knows that when you forecast through month end. Now, there's a flip side to that. If you think there's a bunch of stuff it needs today because we ratcheted a month in, what else happened? There's a bunch of stuff you bought yesterday that it says, I no longer need. That month is gone. Just giving you something there. But that's the monthly ratcheted system in SX. Fax, Tim Plotner took that into heart and he did a rewrite. Even though it's a monthly bucketed system originally, it's been now moved to a daily system. It can forecast every day and throws out, if it's a 3-month window, it'll throw out a day 3 months ago, bring in yesterday, and it's very dynamic. And you won't see that same ratchet in the fax system. We've added some phases, or hopefully some phases on SX, and those are one of the things we'd like to see it change and come back to a daily usage bucket. Any other question? Did that answer the question? Good?
Yesterday that you can compare what you have on hand whenever your PO arrives, so you know how much of your safety stock you're using. Are you going to cover that later, or is it a good time now?
No, that'll be part of our exception reports. We call that the safety analysis. And again, what are we really saying here? Just going to put it out there. All we're saying is in this case, I've got this 4-day safety stock, and if I look at how many I have every time I receive it, if my safety's 4 and I'm always got 7 or 8 on the shelf, am I utilizing that 4? No. I can let it go. If I'm always a -1 in the hole when it arrives, that means I need to raise my safety. Now, Eric, here's where I want to go, because there's phases to this. Most of you need to start with what? Big picture when we get in these parameters. Just get your company parameter set first. Then, if that's working, then I'm going to move down into, hey, do I have some vendors or warehouses or whatever, some P lines that need to be ramped. Then I'm going to finally move into phase 3, what I call optimizing it. I'm now down at the item level, optimizing particular products. You with me? That's the safety analysis. All I'm trying to say is I don't want folks not having their company set up properly, but they're already down here trying to use the individual item safety analysis because it's going to show way too many things because we didn't set up the main picture right. That's where I'm going. Phase it through. So now, we go through the work to get a good order point. And that's where that question started. How do I know if I have a good order point? People send me screens all the time, go, here's the order point for this product. Is it good or not? I couldn't tell you squat about that order point. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's a point in the sand that says when it needs to replenish. What do I need to know about to know if it's a good order point? The components of it. Hey, it says we sell 30 a month. I look and, yeah, we sell around 30 a month. Check. Versus it says we sell 30 a month and they don't have roll-up turned on and we're really using 90 a month out of this branch. It's feeding 2 other locations and the ARP isn't right. Is the usage correct? Is the lead time reasonable? Is the safety reasonable? If I say check, 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 I'm going to say reasonable order point. How do I know if I have a good line point? Well, if the usage is right and the order cycle's right, I have a good line point. And EOQ will be correct on you. You're going to put in your cost of purchase, your cost to carry, your fences. We don't have to get too deep into that one. So where we're getting ready to go in a little bit is we're going to break these down. But before we go there, if I put in the effort to get good usage, lead time, safety, order point adjusters, a good order point, put in targets, look at my cost of purchase departments, play with the review cycle dial, get a good line point, none of that's any good still unless I have one more thing to go with it. And what's that? My purchase not available. If you have a great order point, but the on hand is wrong, remember that from yesterday. System says, hey, when you get down to 11, buy and take it back up to 41, and the system thinks you have 50, but you really don't. Doesn't matter how good or poor your order point and line point are as far as that goes. If the purchase not available is not within reason to compare against it, it's not going to work. Now, this is where I love to bring this part up. What really is this? How many have checked their own oil before at some point in their life? Most of us at some point has checked their own oil. If you haven't, think through it. There's a thing in there, it's called a dipstick. And you pull it out, and all it's doing is looking at where your oil level is. And what's on that dipstick? There's 2 words. Min and max. Order point and line point. And what happens if you pull it out and the dipstick's below min? What do you have to do? Add some oil. If you're between min and max, you're okay. And a lot of you don't know this, especially with today's engine, they're built so tight. If you're above max, it can actually cause as much damage as being below. So the below is our service, right? You're going to burn up the engine. If I'm above